On today's episode of Early Look, we got a big one. It's a UFC heavyweight title fight coming up here November 11th, UFC 295. Jon Jones, Stipe Miocic, a fight that has been in the works for a very long time. Excited to get into this one. If you've never watched the show before, I'm going to go through a bunch of different stats, a bunch of different intangibles. Then I'm going to give you my pick at the end. Some of this stuff may have relevance, it may not. I'll let you decide that. Then at the end, we can debate this fight in the comments after I give you my official prediction. Let's do a quick tail of the tape like we usually do between these two. And got to mention, I'm recording this very early. It is September 12th. We got lots of time before this fight. Knock on wood, nothing happens. But excited to preview this one here. So Jon Jones, you can see there, 27-1. Stipe Miocic, 20-4, 36-41, 6'4" apiece, 84.5 to 80. So Jones going to have the reach advantage. He's also a little bit younger in this matchup. We got to start with Jon Bones Jones, though, the current champion right now in the heavyweight division. Considered the GOAT. We can debate that later, but you can see there, 27-1 with 1 no contest. Jon Jones has got 10 knockouts, 7 submissions, and 10 decisions. He's the heavyweight champion, like I mentioned there. He is 36 years old, 6'4" with an 84.5 inch reach, so a 4.5 inch reach advantage, and he's 5 years younger than the former champ Stipe Miocic. He's also the former light heavyweight champion, is a BJJ purple belt. He's been the UFC light heavyweight champion 2 times. He's had 11 successful defenses overall, 8 successful title defenses his first reign, 3 successful title defenses his second reign. He's the longest light heavyweight champion reign in UFC history at 1,501 days. He's got the longest unbeaten streak in UFC history at 19. He's the youngest fighter to win a UFC title at 23 years and 242 days. He's got fight of the night 4 times against Quinton Rampage Jackson, Lyoto Machida, Alexander Gustafsson, and Daniel Cormier. He's got knockout of the night 1 time against Brandon Vera, submission of the night 2 times against Ryan Bader and Vitor Belfort. And he's got performance of the night 1 time against Daniel Cormier. Jon Jones did not have an amateur debut. He went straight to the pros way back in April of 2008. His 4th fight was against Parker Porter. I always like to bring that up. It's just a crazy thing with Parker being in the UFC's heavyweight division. Did not make his UFC debut. So here's the crazy thing. Made his pro debut April of 2008. Made his UFC debut in 2008 as well. So later that year, he makes his pro debut and he goes straight to the UFC, similar to what we've seen with Bo Nickel. Very similar, like short trajectory on the regional scene to get into the UFC, which is crazy back then. Jones is 23-1 with 1 no contest. He's got 11 finishes, some notable wins. He's got tons. This is why they consider him the GOAT here. Look at some of these wins that he's had. So how about winning the title over Mauricio Shogun Rua? You could even go back and say Ryan Bader was a good win back then because Bader was undefeated. So Bader, Rua, Lyoto Machida, Quinton Rampage Jackson. You got Rashad Evans, you got Lyoto Machida, you've got, I'm not doing this in the right order, Alexander Gustafsson twice, Glover Teixeira, Anthony Smith, Dominic Reyes, and Cyril Gane in his last fight at heavyweight. His only loss is Matt Hamill. We know the story there. That was should have been just a no contest. It was illegal downward elbows. He didn't lose that fight. Matt Hamill was not in that fight at all. Jones has had a little bit of a layoff throughout his career, so he's had some injuries as well. Let's talk about those injuries. So he's supposed to fight Daniel Cormier at UFC 178. Where is it here? 178. And had a torn meniscus, so he was out of that fight. And then obviously UFC 200, he was supposed to fight and had the USADA issue. Let's go over some of the layoffs that Stipe has had in his career. It really started basically from the Cormier fight onwards. So we're going to go from Cormier to OSP. There was a 476-day layoff going from OSP to Cormier. There was a 462-day layoff. Going from Cormier to Gustafsson, there was a 518-day layoff. Going from Dominic Reyes to Cyril Gane, there was a 1,120-day layoff. And going from Gane to Stipe, there will be a 252-day layoff. So this is one of the shortest layoffs he's had in the last couple of years, fighting twice in 1 year, a rarity for Jon Jones, and just with what's happened in a lot of cases outside the cage. Jon Jones had a couple close fights in his career. We'll talk about the Gustafsson fight. That was one of the best fights of all time, UFC 165. It was cage side for that one. September of 2013, 13 media members scored the fight for Jones, just 1 scoring it for Gustafsson. So again, people talk about that being a close fight. Majority did feel Jones won. The Thiago Santos fight, that's one that was a split decision. Looking back, that was UFC 239. I was also at that fight. July 2019, 14 media members scoring the fight for Jones, 4 scoring it for Santos. And then you have the Dominic Reyes fight, which a lot of people feel like Reyes did enough to win that fight. 7 media members scored the fight for Jones, 14 scored the fight for Reyes. It's kind of crazy looking back now where Reyes is and where Jon Jones is. If that fight had gone the other way, that was at UFC 247 in February of 2020, the last fight that Jones has had at light heavyweight. heavyweight. Let's look at a couple stats for Jon Jones. You can see significant strikes landed per minute, 4.29. His striking accuracy is at 57%. Striking defense is at 64%. Doesn't get hit that much. Average takedowns landed per 15 minutes, 1.93. His takedown accuracy is only 45%, though. His takedown defense is at 95%, which could be interesting in this fight if Stipe wants to wrestle. And his average submissions attempted for 15 minutes is 0.5, but that's mainly because he does win by submission, but he's not usually getting it to the ground a ton. So that's everything you need to know about Jon Jones. Again, people consider him the GOAT. He's currently ranked the #1 pound-for-pound fighter. Debate that all you want. I don't make the rules, but that's everything you need to know about Jon Jones. Let's talk about his opponent, the former heavyweight champion. Some people consider him the greatest heavyweight of all time, Stipe Miocic, 20-4. He's got 15 knockouts, 0 submissions, and 5 decisions. He's 41 years old. He's 6'4" with an 80-inch reach. No advantages here in terms of age or height and reach. He's the #3 ranked UFC heavyweight. He's a former NCAA Division I wrestler, and he trains at a strong style fight team. He is a 2-time UFC heavyweight champion with 4 successful title defenses. He's tied with Randy Couture for most wins in UFC heavyweight title fights at 6. He's got the most finishes in heavyweight title fights at 4, most knockouts in heavyweight title fights at 4. He's got fight of the night 3 times against Stefan Struve, Junior Dos Santos, and Alistair Overeem. He's got performance of the night 5 times against Fabio Maldonado, Andre Arlovski, Fabricio Verdun, Junior Dos Santos, and Daniel Cormier. He's also got knockout of the night 1 time against Philip DeFries, and got the most post-fight bonuses in UFC heavyweight division history at 9. Stipe made his amateur debut way back in August of 2006, made his pro debut in February of 2010, made his UFC debut a year later at UFC 136 against Joey Beltran, which is crazy because Beltran's, obviously over there in bare knuckle. What else? Let's see. He's 14-4 in the UFC with 9 stoppage victories. Some notable wins for Stipe. I put Roy Nelson in there because that was a win where at the time we weren't sure. He was coming off the loss to Struve. That kind of turned a corner in his career. So that was a good win at the time. Gabriel Gonzaga, again, former title challenger as well. Former champion, if I'm not mistaken, too, Gonzaga. No, wait. Did he ever win a title? I can't remember. Anyways, either way, he was in the title picture. Mark Hunt's a good win. Knocked him out in the 5th round. That was a very good victory. Andre Arlovski knocked him out. Verdum knocked him out to win the title. Alistair Overeem, that's a good win. Junior Dos Santos, 1st round finish there. Great win there. Beat Ngannou, still the only fighter to beat Ngannou. That's an incredible feat. I guess technically Derek Lewis, but you know what I mean. That's a very good win there for beating Ngannou. The first fight, a lot of people thought Ngannou was going to get him then. And that's, of course, what forced Ngannou to leave MMA Factory, go train at Extreme Couture. So in some ways, Stipe made Francis Ngannou's career a lot better, leaving gyms. And then he's got the 2 wins over Cormier. Some losses. This is still a weird one. Stefan Struve looking back. Not a great loss on the resume. Junior Dos Santos, close fight. We'll talk about that. You've got the knockout loss to Cormier, and then he lost to Ngannou in his last fight. He's had a couple layoffs in his career, going from Roy Nelson to Gabriel Gonzaga. There was a 224-day layoff going from JDS to Ngannou. There was a JDS to Ngannou 252-day layoff, going from Ngannou to Jon Jones up here. There will be a 959-day layoff. So Stipe will have the longest layoff in his career going into this fight at 959 days. Stipe's been pretty healthy. He hasn't really had any injuries. A lot of these canceled fights were on his opponent, but I did forget that he was supposed to fight Ben Rothwell back in 2015, and that did not end up happening. He had an undisclosed injury in that one. He's had one close fight that was sort of notable. The Junior Dos Santos one, UFC on Fox 13. Went back and looked at the media scorecards. That was in December of 2014. 11 media members scoring the fight for JDS, 1 scoring it a draw, and 5 scoring it for Miocic. So again, they probably got the call right on that one. And let's look at Stipe's stats here real quick. Pretty impressive, which makes sense here. Strikes landed per minute, 4.82. Accuracy, 53%. Striking defense, 54%. Takedown accuracy, 34%. That's an interesting thing here is takedown accuracy is at 34%. So if he's going to wrestle in this fight, the stats don't really favor that. And his takedown defense is at 68%. So we'll see if that plays a role at all. His takedown average is 1.86 as well. So that's something to keep note of too. Let's look at the odds. Jon Jones, you can see they're big favorite here, minus 410. This line's actually gone up. The line's been out for a while. I remember Jones being about minus 300. It's now gone up closer to minus 400 there. And as we always do, let's look at the fan vote on Tapology, who people are picking on this one. And Jon Jones leading the way at 89% compared to 11 for Stipe Miocic. Okay, which way am I going in this fight? Well, this might surprise some people, but I'm going to be going with Jon Jones. I don't think that's the surprise. The surprise is I think this might go the distance. Now, here's my reasoning why. I think Jones will win a decision. I think it's pretty obvious Jon Jones does not have one-punch knockout power, right? If you look at Jones's wins for the most part, He does have a lot of TKO wins, 37% of his wins. He has as many TKO wins as he has decision wins, but he's not like a one-punch knockout guy. He's not like Ngannou. He's not like Anthony Rumble Johnson. He's a volume TKO guy when it comes to getting his finishes. His last knockout win was the Gustafsson fight back in 2018. And let's be honest here, Gustafsson on the decline. You could kind of say the same thing about Stipe right now, but at least Stipe's got the credentials to back it up, being considered one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. So it could happen by knockout, but I generally don't think it will be by knockout on this fight. Now, Stipe's never been submitted. If you look at Jones, he does have a lot of submission victories. 26% of his wins are by submission, but he's fighting a guy who's never been submitted. I could see a submission potentially happening where Stipe maybe gets tired, but Stipe's got good cardio. We've seen this time and time again. Unless the age has caught up to him and his gas tanks run out a little bit, the only way I could see a submission is if Stipe's getting tired and Jones lands a couple like body shots or something, and then Stipe goes to the ground and then John submits him that way. It's also possible he could get Stipe against the cage and tap out, but there's no real like evidence that Stipe's like really bad on the ground or anything. I don't know. I mean, saying that, I didn't think that would happen with Cyril Gane, and it did. So you never know. But Stipe's never been submitted. So again, that's another reason why I don't think we'll see a submission win. 3 of Jones's last 4 fights have gone the distance, right? So, and granted, probably not the best performances from him, but Thiago Santos, Dominic Reyes, especially Reyes now, looking back now, he's been finished a lot. So the fact that Jones couldn't finish him kind of makes me think that like maybe he's not like, we haven't seen Jones really get a lot of finishes over the last couple of years, right? At least not recently. And, again, I think it's pretty obvious why Jones will win this. Jones proved in the Gane fight that, look, like, he's still competing at a high level. So I don't think the layoff's like a huge thing for him. He just fought this year. Stipe's the one with the big layoff going in. Jones is younger. Jones has fought, they both fought really good opposition. I think you can throw the opposition thing out of the way. The thing that's interesting about this fight is Stipe's not Cyril Gane, right? Stipe is well-rounded. So that's where things get really interesting here, where you could make an argument that John just fought an opponent that didn't have much in his toolbox in Cyril Gane, and that's why the fight looks so one-sided. And by the way, time of recording this, Cyril Gane coming off a beautiful win over Sergey Spivak in his last fight. So all the people that said that Gane was like a one-trick pony, I don't think that's the case either. So that's what we're going to find out in this fight. If this was Stipe and John a couple of years ago, in fact, I don't know if people remember this, back when Jones beat Daniel Cormier in the rematch, which ended up being a no contest because of USADA, the plan was in December to have him and Stipe, I believe, fight at UFC, the UFC 218 card in Detroit. I think that was the plan, was him and Stipe, and obviously with Jones doing with USADA, it didn't end up working out that way with Jones moving up. So they've been trying to do this fight for years. If that fight had happened back then, I think this fight's 50-50. Right now, I think the line is exactly where it needs to be. Jones is more active. He's looking good at a high level. It looks like he's fit into the heavyweight frame very well. But like I said, Jones is not a guy that's like, he's not like a Damian Maia where he always gets submissions. He's not a Francis Ngannou where he always gets knockouts. So I think despite the fact that Stipe's been out for a while and he's getting older, I don't think we'll see him get finished. Because again, Ngannou hits a lot harder than Jon Jones does. And Stipe had probably one of his worst performances in the last little bit against Ngannou. And maybe he just had an off night. We'll see. I don't know. But that's not typical of what we've seen with Stipe, where he's fought a guy like Cormier and, again, was able to finish him late in the fight. I don't think cardio is an issue for Stipe. So anyways, long story short, I'm going Jones by decision, and I think he gets it done and does it dominantly. I think he gets it done, and then I think he retires. Okay, I want to state this for the record. This is my theory. We'll see if it pans out. We can roll the tape back if I'm right. Jon Jones beats Stipe by decision. He retires, and they do Sergey Pavlovich and Tom Aspinall for the vacant title. There you go. I think that's what happens. So there we go. All right, so I want to know what you guys think in the comment section below. I just want to hear from people who are picking Stipe. Because, like, I mean, I guess I'll hear from you if you're picking Jones. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of Jones by knockout, Jones by submission. I'm expecting that. But I do want to hear people if you're picking Stipe, because I don't think there's many out there. And we've had some crazy upsets this year already. So I wouldn't put it past the MMA gods working their magic to get Stipe winning this. But yeah, I think Jones by decision is most likely. I'll be looking for that decision prop as well when the line comes out. And that's pretty much it, guys. So yeah, let's have a discussion about this in the comments. As always, if there's any other fights you want me to preview that are coming up, this one's well in advance, but this is a big fight that I wanted to cover. Just let me know. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @Lynch on Sports. I'm James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.